Right now on 12, rampant racism hitting small businesses on City Island. The vile messages mailed to restaurants and the action owners are taking.
And a toddler wanders right out of a daycare with no one around watching. Her mother speaking exclusively with News 12 tonight about what happened next.
And a very warm weekend with record-breaking potential, but by next week it's back to reality and that November feel finally arrives.
All right, it's soon going to be getting darker earlier than usual. You're also going to get some more sleep this weekend as well as daylight saving time comes to an end. Don't say we didn't tell you.
I'm here for the sleep, not for the earlier sunsets, though. So Stormwatch Team's Daryl Green is here now to break it all down in your first forecast tonight, Daryl.
Yeah, let's stay positive about things. We're going to have nice, comfortable temperatures out there, but everything else comes at a price. We got some patchy areas of fog to be dealing with once again as we go through the overnight. Be careful on the area roadways. Through Monday, daytime highs are going to be in the 70s when we should be looking at them in the upper 50s. We gain an hour. That's right. Daylight savings time goes bye-bye for this year. Make sure you set the clocks back an hour. A great time to check the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Could save your life. And we're looking at a cooler election day with temperatures struggling to make it to the 60. And we're looking at dry weather right on through Wednesday. As far as the fog is concerned, there'll be some periods where the visibility will be dropping to less than a mile. That's when you need to be careful around 7 a.m. We're looking at high pressure, our dominant weather feature. It's going to be hanging out there for a little while, keeping this front from advancing towards the east. So we should be in pretty decent shape. Fordham, we're going to see the temperatures climbing from the upper 50s to the lower 60s, a daytime high. The first forecast of 75. You're watching News 12. Watch out for the morning fog. We're local. Make sure you check us out.
All right, Daryl, thank you. Turning tonight to an exclusive story that you'll only see here on 12. A mother's worst nightmare coming to life after her baby girl walks out of a Tremont daycare and onto the street seemingly unnoticed.
Hard to believe. She was only later found by police, and her entire escape was caught on camera.
News 12's Faith Graham joining us now from where that baby girl was found. And Faith, you just spoke with her mother. How are they doing tonight?
Well, Amanda, Kurt, fortunately, 2-year-old Penelope is doing just fine tonight, but her mother, Delilah Castro, says getting that phone call yesterday was a traumatic experience. She brought her daughter to daycare at Loyalty Daycare on 3rd Avenue yesterday, only for her daughter to get up and walk out without anybody appearing to stop her. To put it in perspective, she was found here in the corner of East 178th Street and Monterey Avenue, but that daycare is located all the way at the end of this block. It's about 300 feet away. Now, here's the daycare surveillance video showing the moments the young girl got up, walked down the hall and out the front door seemingly unnoticed, despite somebody leaving seconds earlier. Her mother later got a phone call from police saying they found her roaming on the street down the block all alone. The video still has her shaken up.
Trusting a daycare, trusting you with my child that I birthed, and then this happened to her. She was alone outside. That's scary. Like, anything could have happened to her, anything.
Castro has since filed a report with police, and she says she's been working closely with the Administration for Children's Services. Tonight, she tells us her daughter is thankfully doing okay, but she fears what could have happened if police did not find her. When asked about the incident, Loyalty Daycare said this matter is currently under investigation by the Department of Health and ACS and the NYPD. We do not have any further comment at this time, but Castro says now all she's left with is one question.
How? Like, this is a baby. Like, the street was right there. Like, a big street. Like, she could have literally, like, ran in that street. Like, she's not replaceable. Like, that's crazy.
Now, we did reach out to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene about this incident. We have not heard back yet, but when you take a look at their website, we did notice that the daycare was inspected yesterday, and as of tonight, they have several violations open relating to supervision, some even hinting at the possibility that they could be asked to close. Now, when speaking to Delilah tonight, she tells us after this, she doesn't think she will ever be sending her daughter back to daycare. That's the latest from Tremont. Faith Graham, News 12.
That video, incredible to watch. Things could have been much worse, though. Happy to hear they weren't. Faith, thank you. Well, anti-Semitism and racism seem to be on the rise around the country, and right now we are seeing it here at home in the Bronx. Seafood Kings, a black-owned business, and Archie's Tap and Table, a Jewish-owned business, say that they both received copies of this cartoon created by a right-wing political cartoonist that contains racist messaging. Now, the note was delivered in envelopes that appear to have been processed in New Jersey but lack a return address and stamp, leaving both businesses to question how they got here, especially because they say discrimination is not the norm in their neighborhood.
I have people come in and ask, well, how does the island treat you? Has there been any negative? And so far, it hasn't really been any. And when I seen it, I was like, it's just got real now, you know, because now they're putting it in my mailbox.
Now, other residents and City Island Rising all say that this behavior does not reflect the neighborhood. Seafood Kings even plans on holding an event next Saturday with elected officials in order to denounce the hate. Now, police are looking into this, but as of tonight, they still do not know who's responsible.
And dozens coming together tonight to raise awareness for missing and murdered girls of color from across the country. News 12's Phil Tate was at that second annual candlelight vigil put on by Girl Vow and has more on the mission behind this somber ceremony.
Kurt, Amanda, just a moving ceremony here tonight as many gather to remember girls who are either missing or have even been murdered. Well, as girls have gone missing here in New York as well as across the nation, the nonprofit organization Girl Vow is continuing their efforts with a task force as they look to tackle this issue.
We need to highlight the atrocities that women of color face, that women and girls of color face. I also wanted to bring out the point of the fact that we're doing this work, but we need help.
Close to 24 activists held signs with photos of missing and murdered women and young girls of color. Families in attendance shining a light on their loved ones and raising awareness about this issue. The National Task Force for Missing and Murdered Women and Girls of Color is a response to solving the silence when girls and women of color are missing, murdered, and unnoticed. They tell me their mission is to organize, advance beyond the issues of colorism, racial, and structural oppression with communities at the helm of change. And Councilmember Rita Joseph in attendance at tonight's vigil and tells me it was important for her to be there.
Because it affects women and women of color. When we go missing, no one goes looking for us. So we have to amplify it ourselves. And as you know, this is a council led by 31 women. So it's our opportunity to raise the alarm on this critical issue of missing black and brown women.
And Girl Vow is aiming to create change with legislation now in the Senate, which hopes to take a look at the lack of care and concern. Well, that's the latest here outside of City Hall Park. I'm Phil Tate, News 12.
All right, Phil, thank you. Well, new tonight, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office announcing the indictment of a Brooklyn couple in the murder of a TSA worker back in May. The DA's office charging Richard Barrett and Irene Brown with murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Authorities say Barrett approached 45-year-old Donovan Davey from behind on Church Avenue back on May 29th and shot him several times in the back of the neck and leg. Barrett then ran off into a car that was driven by Brown as they both fled the scene. They each face 25 years to life in prison. Now, Davey was a longtime TSA employee who worked at JFK Airport for nearly 20 years. His family says he was a father figure to his niece and other children in the East Flatbush community.
Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor Allison Esposito making a campaign stop in the Midwood section of Brooklyn earlier today. Republican candidate for governor Lee Zeldin was not able to make it tonight despite being on his schedule previously. A staffer on his campaign tells us it was due to traffic and a scheduling conflict, but we did hear from Esposito, who has roots in Brooklyn. At one time, she served as the commanding officer at the 70th precinct and says that she has seen crime skyrocket and that this is part of the reason she left law enforcement. She says she wants to work with lawmakers up in Albany to make serious changes.
We were standing on the fact that public safety and law and order and the crime epidemic right now is on New Yorkers' minds. We were standing on the fact that New Yorkers are struggling to put food on their table and gas in their cars. The economy is on New Yorkers' minds.
Zeldin's team says they are continuing on the campaign trail and will be making stops throughout the city leading up to Election Day on Tuesday.
And meanwhile, Governor Hochul was out campaigning this morning, not only for herself, but for a proposal that you'll find on the back of your ballots. The Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Bond Act plans to create flood-proof neighborhoods and improve public health. More than $1 billion would go towards flood risk reduction. And when Hurricane Sandy hit our city a decade ago, it created over $19 billion in damages and economic loss. Now, a lot of the projects started after that storm still haven't been finished yet. And Governor Hochul says this act would allow the state to access funds to help prepare for the future if approved.
And we are just days away from Election Day. This week on Power and Politics, we've got everything you need to know before you hit the polls, including a look at the race for governor. Governor Kathy Hochul is in that tight battle with her Republican challenger, Lee Zeldin, as both candidates have been bouncing across the city the last week looking to earn your vote. We asked our political expert, Dr. Christopher Malone, for his prediction on who will be governor when all the votes are counted.
This is Kathy Hochul's race to lose. She has it within her grasp. She's been seen with Eric Adams. She's trying to pump up the vote in New York City. She still has the advantage in a heavily Democratic state. And I do think the abortion issue this summer really would have made the difference in the summer if the election was held then. I still think that is on her side. On the other hand, Lee Zeldin has run about as good a race as a conservative Republican can run in a very liberal New York state.
We'll dive more into the governor's race, the balance of power in Congress, and what's at stake in our local contests. So make sure to catch Power and Politics. That's this Sunday morning at 11:30, only right here on News 12.
And we've got some other important dates for you to remember, as this Sunday is when you have up until to cast your early vote. Also, don't forget your early polling site is different than the one you visit on Election Day. Be sure to check ahead. The general election is Tuesday, November 8th. That's also the deadline to return your absentee ballot. And remember to join us right here on News 12 on election night this coming Tuesday. We're going to have live coverage and results of all the races in your neighborhood. It all starts at 9 p.m. right after the polls close, right here on News 12, where local matters.
Longwood, you're watching News 12 The Bronx. Local matters.
Alexa, 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 my baby, I miss you. I love you, baby. I love you and I miss you, my love. Justice for Alexa.
New tonight, one of the borough's biggest funeral homes under fire once again, after a Bronx family says they were left in the dark as they waited for their loved one's ashes. Well, today they rallied outside of that funeral home to demand answers. And News 12's Anthony Carlos spoke with that family and brings us more from Mott Haven.
He said we'll get her back in 2 to 3 weeks.
A month and a half later, Jahira Reyes says she had still not received her daughter's ashes, bringing this family to its breaking point Thursday.
The last thing that we thought that we was going to hear was that Alexa just left the funeral home.
On her way to get cremated.
On her way to get cremated yesterday.
Alexa Guitard died from cancer on September 10th, a few days before her 21st birthday. Her family hired R.G. Ortiz Funeral Home for services in mid-September and were expecting to receive her ashes soon after, but didn't realize the struggle they'd be in for.
I don't remember how many times they took down my name and number and nobody called me. The way they treated us and they have treated other people in the past, they don't care. That's what they showed us.
Now the family is filing a lawsuit and a complaint with the state for how Ortiz Funeral Home handled the situation. As we previously reported, the funeral home was fined $30,000 for violations in handling the deceased after our investigation, Death Without Dignity, aired last December. In this case, the deceased's mother confronted the owner about the delay in getting her daughter's ashes.
He said I needed a permit for the cremation, that they didn't have a permit. So my aunt told them, why you didn't say that when we came for the service? And you could have given us options.
Reyes says they were told the ashes were ready as of Thursday night and were offered a refund.
We don't want the money back. We want the respect for our loved ones.
Our calls to Ortiz for an explanation also went unreturned. Meanwhile, a death care industry source tells us cremation generally happens 2 to 6 days after a death, and that several factors could cause a delay. Issues paying the bill, if the death occurred out of state, or if organs were donated, none of which apply in this case, according to this family. In Mott Haven, Anthony Carlo, News 12.
Anthony, thank you. New tonight, a Long Island jury has found former NYPD officer Michael Valva guilty on all counts, including second-degree murder in the death of his own son, Thomas. Authorities say that Valva repeatedly made Thomas and his 10-year-old brother sleep in their unheated garage in the winter of 2020. And on January 17th of that year, Thomas died of hypothermia. Authorities also say Michael Valva beat, starved, and emotionally abused his sons for months. He now faces 25 years to life in prison.
Well, the NYPD says it's unveiling a new way to fight crime. They're partnering with Ring doorbell cameras. Now, the department says it'll participate in Neighbors, which is the free app that's part of the Ring doorbell system. Not everyone is a fan of this new plan, as critics say it raises some serious questions about police surveillance. But in response to this, the NYPD says it can only view material that has already been posted publicly.
The New York City Marathon, it's this Sunday, and runners from all across the globe are gearing up today for the big race at this year's Marathon Expo, as the race gets back to full capacity with an estimated 50,000 runners expected to participate. For these runners, it's time to soak it all in. Thousands descending on the Javits Center today to pick up their race number bibs, get some last-minute marathon tips, and buy some swag for the memories.
It's just like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You just can't pass on it. And like the 99% of people who don't run the marathon, like you're part of that special, unique group, part of the world, the marathoner, and that's just like a special privilege to be right there, just to be called yourself a marathoner.
The expo is open to the public through Saturday at 5 p.m. and then the New York City Marathon kicks off promptly at 8 a.m. Sunday morning.
Looking forward to that. Speaking of Sunday morning, lighter mornings and darker evenings are on the way. Daylight saving time comes to an end this weekend at 2 a.m. Sunday. U.S. clocks will turn back 1 hour and give us a little bit more sleep, but that shifts sunrise and sunset an hour earlier and ushers in 4+ months of darker winter evenings. It also comes as lawmakers debate whether the long-standing tradition should be eliminated. It does seem like a joke that they're doing this on the marathon day, doesn't it? You're setting the clock. I know it's a Seinfeld episode, but I'm just saying, it just feels like you're messing with people.
Fingers
Things that
crossed.
make you go,
Hopefully they're a little extra rested for that 26.2, right?
There's your hour for the extra rest. Hope it comes in handy for everybody. Listen, we have been looking at beautiful weather, minus the fogginess that we had out there on Friday morning. We get a little bit more out there as we get into Saturday morning, but temperature-wise, fantastic. Anywhere from 10 to 13 degrees above average, ranging from 68, 70, and 72 degrees for JFK, Central Park, and LaGuardia. The trend continues. We should only be seeing daytime highs of about 58. We've got 75, 75, and 78. And on election day, we won't even be making it to 60 degrees. So enjoy the next 3 days because changes are on the way. High pressure, it's going to be in charge of what's going on, bringing in those southerly winds, helping us to bump up the temperatures. So we're going to see above average temperatures until we turn the corner into Tuesday. So just keep that in mind and don't get too comfortable with these temperatures yet. We're going to have relatively fair skies. A cold front's going to be coming in from the west, but notice how the majority of the moisture just dissipates. So I think we're going to have a dry weather pattern that will be with us, and then once the front clears, well, that's when you notice a dip in the temperatures. That'll be here by Tuesday. So we're looking at temperatures either side of 60 degrees, watching out for some patchy areas of fog. Overall, a cool night with a southwest wind at about 5 miles per hour. 5-mile-an-hour wind coming in from the south, and we're going to see some patchy morning fog. The fog burns off as we go throughout the day, and take a look at our temperatures. Upper 60s to around the middle 70s. Again, well above average for this time of year. Over the next 7 to 10 days, we keep it nice and mild out there. Election day, 57 degrees. Notice no rain possibly until next weekend.
Bronx. Get ready, get set, vote. This Tuesday, News 12 has live local coverage of all the races that matter to you. The most complete election night coverage. Only on News 12. Local matters.
Welcome back to News 12. I'm Pat O'Keefe inside Carnesecca Arena on the campus of St. John's University. The college basketball season nationwide begins on Monday, and St. John's this season hopes to return to the NCAA tournament. The Red Storm once again led by a roster full of New York City talent. Chief among them, Brooklyn native Posh Alexander, who played his high school ball at Our Savior Lutheran in the Bronx and was named to the preseason All-Big East first team. Alexander leads a deep and balanced St. John's roster. They host Merrimack to open the season Monday night.
Any given day, like you said, any one of us could go out there and score 20, but I don't think that's just our main focus. You know, our main focus is to keep feeding the hot hand, and whoever's going that late is going, and just to try to win the game and hang our heads on defense.
Just stay together. I feel like we just got to know from the jump that we only got ourselves.
Speaking of local talent, a special event on Thursday night. The first ever class was inducted into the Bronx Basketball Hall of Fame. A star-studded affair including Basketball Hall of Famers, NBA and college stars, and coaches. 15 people comprising the inaugural class. It was headlined by former Truman High School star and longtime NBA player Rod Strickland, who is now the head coach at LIU, and Clinton High School star Nate Tiny Archibald, one of the 50 and 75 greatest players in NBA history.
When I was growing up, people saved me. And I think that you could see some of the guys that, and some of the ladies that grew up in the project situation in the South Bronx, because that, you know, they changed it to my Haven now, in the South Bronx, that a round ball saved some of us.
I've always had a love of basketball, and basketball has been good to the McLaughlin family. But the thing I got involved with this for is to remember the people in the Bronx.
Here at St. John's University, I'm Pat O'Keefe, News 12.